welcome to the Dr. Georgiana Show. I'm Dr. Georgiana, your emotional intelligence relationship coach. Every week, we bring you people who are dating, in a committed relationship, separated or divorced, as well as experts to have the tough conversations about the relationship world. The topic this week is how to regulate emotions in a relationship. And our guest is Cedric Bertelli, a specialist in emotional regulation, who's here to talk about how to regulate emotions with a program called TIPI. So, Cedric, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to see you again, Georgiana.
Yes, equally. So, tell us about yourself and your specialty.
So, my name is Cedric Bertelli. I was born in France and I work with the TIPI research program. So, I bring the work here in the US. It's a French research program. Do you want to know how did I get there?
Yes. How did you come to specialize in emotional regulation?
But it's a complete second career. My first career was very different. I was working for the Ritz-Carlton company. I was the director of the restaurants. And back in the day, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and anger and this kind of emotions. And I was looking to feel better myself, obviously. So I tried different things, psychotherapy. In California, so you have plenty of choice, right? To try to improve yourself. And doing a Google research, I found the TP program in France. They were having a lot of media coverage at the time in 2009 because they were saying that anybody can resolve any kind of emotional difficulty in 30 minutes.
Wow.
So I became curious and I contacted them from here, from the States. And I did a session on one of the emotions I wanted to resolve. The emotion didn't come back. I gave myself several months to really see if it was coming back or not. It wasn't coming back. So I decided to learn how to resolve my own emotional difficulty with them on the phone from the States. I did. And I had four main difficulties I wanted to resolve. I worked on them. I gave myself 6 months to see if they were coming back or not. They didn't come back. So I decided to pick up the phone, call them in France and say, hey, I don't know much about emotional regulation or this program, but I'm very much willing to learn. Would you take me in? And they said yes. So that's how I joined the program in 2009.
So, what was the emotion that you were trying to resolve?
Getting a bit personal here, Georgiana.
Personal, yes.
It was anxiety, mostly anxiety, jealousy, and anger. They used to call me Napoleon back in the day at the Ritz. I had a reputation to throw tantrums.
I see.
So that's gone.
So you don't throw tantrums
I don't
anymore?
throw tantrums anymore, but don't push me too much.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
everybody has a limit, right?
Yes, but no more tantrum at all. No more anger. No, that's gone.
Fantastic. So, what is the TB program?
So the TP program is a research program that was created by a gentleman called Luc Nicon. Luc Nicon is a French researcher. Luc is recognized all across Europe, all across Western Europe, for one main discovery, which is that he was able to prove through a landmark study that anybody has a biological capacity for self-emotional regulation. Basically, he was able to prove that from a point of emotion, when you feel anxiety, anger, and emotional trauma, anybody has the natural capacity to regulate it right here and right then. He was able to prove that the body is wired to regulate permanently the difficult emotion felt. So, based on this discovery, he created several programs that allow us to help people and to educate professionals such as therapists, coaches, on how to use this natural capacity with their clients or their patients.
Wow. So, how long does the program last?
To learn how to do that with a
Yes.
client,
Yes.
it's actually very, very quick in the sense that compared to other programs that are out there, in order to be certified, to be what you call a TP specialist, it's only 7 days.
And what if person wants to use it for themselves?
Then it's much faster. If you want to learn how to do it on yourself by yourself from a point of emotion, that means the way that this natural capacity is meant to be used. Huh? When you feel the emotion, if you want to learn that, it only takes 2 hours. It's not, it's not, TP is not a technique. It's really understanding how the emotional, how we work as human beings emotionally. And from this understanding, allowing the body to do what it is supposed to do, which is regulating its own difficulty. So learn to do it on yourself by yourself is only 2 hours. If you want to learn how to re-trigger your sensory memory to regulate an emotion afterwards, so not only when you feel it, but afterward, an hour after, a day after, 6 months after an emotion arises, then it takes 3 hours, 3 times 1 hour.
Wow. So how do you apply it? Let's say, for example, that someone is trying to leave a partner or has just left the partner and is having an emotional reaction. And this emotional reaction puts them at risk of going back, even though they know it's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
So how can TP help them in this instance?
Yeah, that's a great question because obviously when we stay in a relationship that is unhealthy or when we are about to go back in a relationship, even if we know that it's unhealthy, the reason why we do that is it's fear-based, obviously. So if you learn how to use this natural capacity for emotional regulation, once you feel the fear, and you're able to regulate it permanently, because I want to insist, this work is not to feel good or feel better. It's really to regulate permanently, instantaneously, the emotion felt. So if somebody is in a state of fear because they're afraid to leave a relationship or because they're about to go back in a relationship because it's weirdly comfortable, even if it's unhealthy, once the person reconnects the fear there, they can simply regulate it. And I can even explain how to regulate it right here. It doesn't take long. Once a fear is regulated, then you're really in touch with your gut feeling, you're in integrity with what you really feel. And instead of acting out of fear or not acting out of fear because of fear, then you're able to feel what is really good for you. Without fear, you become aware of what is right for you to do in order to feel safe, to feel happy.
And you can make the right decision.
And you can make the right decision.
You know, it's interesting because what if you have someone who has experienced trauma, for example? So when you recall that emotion, what happens with someone who's been traumatized? Is that scary for the person?
Not at all, and that's the beauty of this work, in the sense that if I work with somebody with trauma who has been traumatized, or if the person is working on himself or herself, you're never going to revisit the trauma. The way that the person feels today, whatever happened in the past, the way that the person feels today, basically the impact, the current impact of the trauma, offer the right window of opportunity for this natural capacity to come into action. Basically, somebody who come to see me with PTSD, I will ask a simple question. I will ask, today, in your life, what is the repercussion of this trauma that you lived? And the person will tell me about today's emotion. Today, I don't know, I cannot come out of my house without being very stressed. Today, I cannot be in a relationship. Today, I cannot be intimate with my partner. Okay. But we will take the way he or she is today. And from the way the emotion is felt today, we're going to revisit the origin of the emotion, but not intellectually, through sensations. And the fact to do that will allow the brain, the neuronal system, to integrate an information that was, since the trauma, trapped.
And so the emotion increases when you revisit the original emotion.
That's a great question. Actually, no.
It doesn't.
Not with this work, because we don't stay in the emotion. We work with the physical sensations felt during an emotion. So go ahead.
No, I see.
So when someone is having an emotion, if they stay in the emotion, the emotion is going to increase. Yeah. But if someone feels an emotion and instead of staying in the emotion, they pay attention to the physical sensations, to the sensorial. Because how do we know that we feel such or such emotion in our life? How do we know that we feel an emotion? We feel it in our body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Biologically, the way that emotion works is first through physical sensations. And if our cognitive brain, our intellect cannot manage these physical sensations, then comes an emotion. So if someone is feeling an emotion, if you can do a shift from emotion to sensations, if they can pay attention to the physical sensations, their emotion, as we know it, will stop right away. There's no more emotion. I should say the emotional reaction stops right away. The emotion stays active, yes, but only under the shape of physical sensations. So when I work with someone, they don't get emotionally triggered. And when they work on themselves, they don't get emotionally triggered. They feel the emotion and they shift right away to the sensations. Those physical sensations is called the sensory memory. Those physical sensations will create a direct and clear path to the origin of the trauma, to the origin of the difficulty. The fact to re-experience physically, through physical sensations, the origin of a difficulty will allow the brain to regulate this emotion.
Mm-hmm. Do you work with breathing and mindfulness, for example?
No, to the contrary. In the sense that uh, every time we feel an emotion and we try to relax by breathing or to process it through breathing or by putting colors on the emotion or all this coping mechanism that we've learned,
Mm-hmm.
every time we do that, we actually come against the natural capacity for emotional regulation to come into place. The body is wired, the body is made, is programmed to regulate our emotions if we only let it do what it's supposed to do. Every time we breathe, every time we do anything to cope with the emotion, instead of simply staying with the physical sensations and letting them evolve,
Mm-hmm.
every time we do something, we basically
Stop
stop
them. Mm-hmm.
the capacity. I'm always baffled. We are, it's normal for us human beings when we cut ourselves, when we fall, for example, to see that after a few days, the physical body is healing. It's normal. But for some reason, when it comes down to emotion, it's supposed to be different. For some reason, when it comes down to emotion, well, the healing has to be long. The healing has to be, sometimes painful. That's not the case. The human body has the same plasticity when it comes down to emotion that it has when it comes down to physical hurt. The difference is that it's much faster with emotion. So, to go back to this analogy of hurting ourselves, if we cut ourselves and we keep on touching the scab, well, the wound is going to keep on bleeding and eventually become infected. That's the same thing with emotion. When we have an emotion, if every time we feel an emotion, we start to breathe, we stay in our emotion and we stir the soup, as I like to
Mm-hmm.
say, it's exactly the same. It's like you keep on, picking on the scab, and the body is not healing itself. If you just let the body do its work, which is basically when you feel an emotion, you close your eyes and you pay attention to your physical sensations. Well, this will stop the emotional reaction. And at this point, our physical sensation will be, I don't know, throat tight, diaphragm tense. It will be difficult to breathe, for example. Stay connected to those physical sensations. And you will very quickly see that the sensation do not stay static. They're going to start to evolve, to move in your body. That's called the evolution of the sensations. So if one is able to stay consciously with the physical sensations as they evolve, for example, if I had a headache, the headache will go behind my eyes and feel like it pushes my eyes and then go down to my jaw and make my jaw very stiff. if they stay with the physical sensations as they evolve without impacting them whatsoever, this evolution of the sensation will never take more than 1 minute. And after the sensations are evolved, the person will feel calm, physically calm. If one is able to stay with the physical sensations as they evolve, without going back to their head, without trying to change them, it is enough for the body to regulate itself.
So how do you prevent the thoughts from coming in? Because obviously when you're having a physical sensation that resembles an old sensation, right, of the trauma, then the mind is going to want to create images and thoughts.
That's a very good question.
So how do you do that?
As human beings, we cannot be in the emotion, which is also in the intellect, right? So in the thought process, because an emotion is only an intellectual management of physical sensation. That's what it is. So as human being, we cannot be in the emotion or in the thoughts and in the sensation in the same time. These are two very different channels. So when you feel an emotion and you pay attention to your physical sensation, you put your intention in paying attention to your physical sensation. So yes, a little willpower. But once you're in touch with the physical sensations and you follow the sensations as they evolve, you're not going to go back to your thoughts. That's not true. If your intention is there and you keep on following the sensations, you can only do one thing at a time.
So it's about focus.
Absolutely. It's about, pay attention and follow what is happening. And you will not go back to your head. Impossible. We actually provide once a month a free training, a free public training in San Francisco and everywhere in the world, but in San Francisco because we're here. Basically, in 2 hours, I teach people, it's 2 times 1 hour, I teach people how to regulate the emotion on themselves by themselves. And that's free. The first hour, I teach them specifically in details how to do it. It takes an hour. They practice for 2 weeks. And then we see each other again for 1 more hour where I collect feedbacks. And I help them if they faced any difficulty. The feedback that we get from these people who are just trying those simple steps are amazing. We're talking about people dealing with strong PTSD, people dealing with strong anger that come back on the second session and have been able to regulate their own emotions.
Fantastic. What about during a confrontation with another person? Give us an example of how TIPI can help in de-escalating a confrontation.
I will say that if both people are triggered in a confrontation, we feed each other from each other emotions, right? So if both people are triggered in a confrontation, nothing is going to happen. I think the first step that we have to take in order to de-escalate an emotion or a confrontation is to first take responsibility for our own emotion. We feel triggered. It doesn't matter what is happening with the other person. It doesn't matter if the person is right, is wrong. It doesn't matter if we are hurt by the topic. If we feel triggered, the best way to de-escalate a confrontation is to remove yourself from the confrontation and regulate the emotion that you feel. Because the fact of the matter is, when we speak out of an emotional space, if we speak out of anger, for example, the only thing that the person in front of us is getting is our anger. The message behind the anger doesn't go through. You cannot access the other person. And then the other person will say something like, you don't hear me, you don't listen to me, you don't pay attention to what I say. It's not so much that we don't pay attention, we don't listen to what the angry person is telling us. It's not that we don't listen, it's just that we cannot hear. Because between the message, which is real and important, between the message and the receptor, there is the veil of anger, so to speak, there is the emotion. And the only thing the person in front takes is the emotion. So if we want to communicate with someone, if we want to bring down a confrontation, to stop a confrontation, step away for a second, pay attention to your sensations, let them evolve, regulate your own emotion, and then come back in relationship. Come back to the conversation. I guarantee you that if you're calm and the person in front of you is still triggered, the simple fact that you are calm will bring the person to a calmer space as well. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And then a communication, normal communication can take place and we can listen to each other. So to answer your question, sorry, it was a long answer. For me, the best way to de-escalate a confrontation is to first take responsibility or take ownership of our own emotion. Regulate it, and then come back calm, grounded, in integrity with who we are, who we really are, come back into a relationship with the other person with who we're having a confrontation. And when you come back with this kind of dynamic, well, you become simply and automatically in empathy with what the other person need to express, and something constructive can happen, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do people practice TIPI on their own, or do they practice it sometimes with their partner? Is there a different method for each, if you practice alone or if you practice with a partner?
Yes, it's a bit different. So when you do it on yourself, you regulate your difficulty. And that's not even TIPI, that's just learn how to use your biological capacity for emotional regulation, which is what the TIPI program is recognized in Europe. But when you want to help someone who is undergoing a difficult emotion, an anger, sadness, you name it, if you want to help someone to feel better, you have to take a different course, because you're going to help someone dealing with their emotion. Or it's a short training. If you want to help someone in the moment when they feel an emotion, it takes 2 hours, because you need to know how to navigate the other person's emotions and feel the things. But yes, a different process. It's much faster to learn on yourself than to learn to help somebody else.
Yeah. Do you get both? I mean, you get people who come alone?
Oh yeah, yes, and we have three programs to teach people how to help others. We have a program called TIPI Direct, which we teach people. Most of them are therapists, nurses, firemen, how to help someone when they're facing a difficulty, an emotional difficulty, a shock, an anger, a depression. So how to help someone from a point of emotion to calm the person down right away and regulate the difficulty. It's called TIPI Direct. Then we have a program called TIPI for Children, which is amazing. We teach special ed teachers, we teach parents how to help kids from 2 to 9 years old to regulate their emotional difficulties. That works like a miracle. You will not believe how kids are receptive to this work. And same thing is 2 hours. And then we have a program which is more for professionals, for psychotherapists, for doctors, for coaches, called the TIPI Professional Training. This is longer, and that's a 7-day program. Mm-hmm. During this program, we'll teach people how to help someone when someone in front of them have a difficulty. But we also teach those participants how to re-trigger the brain of someone in order to recreate very quickly an emotion and resolve the emotion that comes out of re-triggering the brain, basically.
Do you get continuing education?
Yeah, we do actually. We are endorsed by the Board of Behavioral Science in California to give continuous education to MFTs, social workers, and other worker professional helpers.
Great.
Yes, we do.
So Cedric, thank you so much for being with us. I know that our viewers have appreciated your expertise on emotional regulation and on TIPI, and to learn how to manage relationships.
Well, I was very happy to be in the show and to be able to share this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
To all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us this week. If you would like to contribute to the discussion, please head over to my Facebook page at facebook.com/Dr. Georgiana and join the conversation. Also, please don't hesitate to share your stories with me. You can contact me through my website at drgeorgiana.com/contact. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Dr. Georgiana, your emotional intelligence relationship coach. I will see you next week.